What's up? Welcome to episode number 112 of the People We Love podcast. I am Adam Choit. What's up? If you're new here, what I do is interview people from all walks of life, most often comedians and other artists about their lives and careers. The conversation is casual, but I also ask everyone to highlight the people they love, who they admire, who influenced them, inspired them, or supported them. For more, check out peoplewelovepodcast.com. That's peoplewelovepodcast.com. And the Instagram handle is at peoplewelovepodcast. I'm at Adam Choit on Instagram and Twitter. Please remember to tap subscribe or follow as well on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on. And of course, positive 5-star reviews on iTunes, Apple Podcasts are greatly appreciated. So, today's guest is comedian and photographer, California's own Ray Cabato. His parents divorced when he was very young, but it sounds like it was for the best, and Ray ended up with really great step-parents. And Ray is also a drummer and a former pathological liar. His words. And we cover it all. Family, friends, and of course Ray's journey into stand-up comedy. But we cover a lot, so let's just get started. Here's Ray Cabato. Okay, so it's good to see you today, Ray Cabato. Thank you for joining me on the Zoom.
Dude, anytime, Adam. Thank you for asking me.
Oh, did I pronounce it correctly? Because I feel like I pronounced it differently when I just said it versus how I said it before we started recording. Your last name?
Cabato? Yeah.
Cabato.
Yep.
We're just talking about how people add letters that aren't there, but we're suspecting they may be dyslexic is the reason. It's hard to know if people are just lazy, dyslexic, stupid.
Yeah, no, all right. What is it? Especially if a white woman is introducing me and they fuck up my last name, like the riff I love doing is like, if you ever want to know how it feels to be Asian in school, a white woman fucking up your last name, that is the key point of being Asian in school. And I just go into my bits, but yeah.
It works. Do they sometimes ask how it's pronounced, like in advance, like
and I'm happy when they do that. It's like, but then like when they jump into it and they double down on their fuck up, like they go like, coming up to the stage, Ray Caballo, and I'm like, okay, cool.
You're
not my name, but sure.
Yeah, no, everyone's supposed to thinks they know everything. I think that's what it is. Like even just regular words that aren't like people's names and surnames or whatever. Like people will just mispronounce the word before they say, "Oh, how's that pronounced?" They'll just say it incorrectly most of the time. I feel like just yell loud and you don't have to make sense in this country. Just yell the loudest. I think that's what it is. You don't have to be right.
Exactly. There's really obscure Japanese drama where there's this dude teaching English to a bunch of students, and then the whole thing he says about learning English is just be confident in your fuck ups. That's how you learn English. It doesn't matter what you say. If you say it confidently, then they'll believe you. And I'm like, that's the most American shit I've ever heard in my life. Sure.
Is that not true? I feel like just the way you're describing that story to me, right, or whatever, to me right now, I'm like that's true. That I need to think more in those terms to be more successful in America. Like I don't know exactly how I'm defining that, but generally speaking, like in American life.
How the fuck do you think Trump got to be president?
You just yell the loudest.
You have the loudest, say the most crazy shit, and you're like, God damn. But yeah, I digress.
Yeah, it's okay. But what I wanted to ask before we get into your life a little bit is just how are you?
Oh, I'm doing well, man. Like, the most ironic shit in all this is that in me doing stand-up comedy, it's the most mentally healthy I've ever fucking been in my life. Like, and I find it highly fucking ironic.
It goes against type, I suppose, not trying to demean the people in your field.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's like well, listening for like you see comedians and their struggles, like you hear like Robin Williams and
that's on the really extreme end for sure. Yeah, unfortunately,
exactly. Like these highly funny people that struggle with their demons, and like I think I went in reverse where I struggled with my demons, and then like when I got into stand-up comedy, I find out that the demons that I was struggling with like is ammunition for me on stage, and I love that shit.
It's a, what did you say for you on stage?
It becomes ammunition for me. Like,
Yeah, like an outlet.
so like it, the way I view it is that like I'm very highly anxious, right? So when I usually like I would be alone by myself, I would like get a flashback of a really cringy moment that makes me like shudder in fear, going like, why the fuck did I do that? And then
Yeah.
I I used to like hate that shit. And then when I became a stand-up comedian, when that shit happens, I'm like, okay, how the fuck can I get the funny out of this moment? You know, like it's where it becomes like a Tai Chi moment where I take all the negative energy and like flip it to positive.
Yeah, and I was gonna say that that's like the comedy that I like. That's the type of stuff that I love to hear from comedians when I go see them live. And my mental block is that I don't want to go through that process. I don't want to go through that. So you
Yeah,
guys do it for me, basically. I go to a show and I live vicariously through the embarrassing stories that stand up comedians tell, and it's true. And I was almost thinking this morning that I was going to start really writing them down, like because I hear at least like two, three, four, five, whatever amount of like little anecdotes of like, yo, that's super embarrassing what you just told me. I should not know that. I would never want to tell anyone that. But I appreciate you saying that. So I'm going to
yeah,
write it down and maybe publish a list at some point or something like that. I'm sort of
yeah.
compiling. You know what I should do? I got an idea. I'm going to put out a book maybe of compiling the most embarrassing stories from all the comedians and like all local Los Angeles comedians or something like that. I'm thinking out loud right now.
It's a book of everyone's material, going like, this is what they've said. Check it out.
Their
Uh,
most embarrassing shit that happened to them, really, that kind of stuff.
yeah, because like there's a handful of things on stage that like I feel like kills energy, or like it's sort of like the one big one is if like a male comedian goes like, I have a small dick, like that's like their shtick, and
Yeah.
it's just like it it's sort of like takes away their credibility in a way, and like unless they find a really interesting angle, but if more times than not, especially like in open for open mics and open mic comedians, they just present it and like they go nowhere with it, and I'm like, oh, okay, now I know, now I just know that you have a small dick. That sucks.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like it can become a therapy session a little bit
Mm.
more than like you're trying to emote rather than make us laugh. And that's not always as effective. Like it should be like I have these problems and here's why they're funny and so what? I'm doing what I do in my life. Like have that I think that's what I like to
Mm.
see. Like
Yeah,
don't make me uncomfortable, make me like want to be your friend.
yeah, like
I
because
think
like
that's what it is.
yeah, because like the like I have this personal what is it? This personal thing about like you could do anything on the comedy stage as long as it's funny. Like that's how I feel about it, right? Because like you could take some really like rough subjects, and if you have the right angle
Right.
that could like elicit a guttural laugh, then I appreciate like how you get there, right? Um, what is it? Some people don't know how to fucking do that at all.
Why don't we get into it? Your life and tell me where you were like born and raised and like early memories from like when you were even like elementary school or younger kind of thing. Like a
Yeah,
little bit about your family background or whatever.
yeah,
I
because
couldn't
all
find
right,
much about you.
yeah. So like
Mystery
yeah,
man, man of
yeah.
mystery.
Just the what was it? For me, I had like a pretty unique upbringing. What is it? When I, the the thing about it is that my parents divorced when I was a kid. So like 2 years old, my biological parents split, right? Um, and I am technically from a broken home, but then the thing that they did was that they broke apart and built two equally healthy homes. And what was it? Like my dad was a senior chief in the Navy, and he lived in Hawaii. Um, what was it? And him and my stepmom, they're very much in love. And every summer I would go to Hawaii every summer for 3 months, visit him, and then I would be here in California with my mom and my stepdad that married. And then my stepdad was a photographer. He owned a photo development hut in Whittier, and I was surrounded by cameras. But to be real, I thought photographers were a bunch of cucks that I didn't like. Like it's my stepdad. Like I didn't really respect the man when growing up.
Right.
But
Stepdad
but
is can be a tough thing. Like a
yeah, but
stepdad
like
is not can be a tough role for people. And
uh, yeah, most definitely. But because like there's moments where like I would like have outbursts and go like fuck you, you're not my dad, like
I
shit like
love
that.
it. I love that.
Like
Like the more
like
public
that
stuff.
and I said that shit when I was 8. That shit was fucked up.
Yeah. Yeah.
but
You're just a kid though. You don't I
yeah.
mean,
But but over the years, like was it I become good buddies with my dad. So like the thing about my stepmom and my stepdad is that like I have such a respect for them that I just call them mom and dad. Like I don't call them like Uncle Basil or Auntie
that,
Grace.
that's
They're
cool.
yeah, I call them mom and dad. I have pure respect. Uh
All four of the of you have four parents basically is what we're
yeah,
saying.
pretty much.
Dude,
And
that's kind of cool
yeah, and it's cool, but then like it's one of those
in a
things where
way.
like yeah, no, it's because like growing up like I was a highly delusional kid, like hyper delusional.
In what
Like
way?
it's like if you I'm trying like all right, so uh coming up like in June 5th, I'm headlining in Vegas. Like I'm doing a 25-minute set.
That's exciting.
And the thing is that I am doing it in front of my biological dad, my step family, and my biological mom and my stepdad.
All
And
four.
they're all gonna be in the same room watching me do comedy for 25 minutes.
And they're sitting
And
together.
they're sitting in the same room. The last time they've been in the same room was like when my brother graduated like 14 years ago. And like there's a lot of like animosity between my like biological parents,
Oh,
but like they're gonna see me do comedy because was it this is like because like I was wrestling with the idea of doing comedy in front of my biological dad alone because like he's like the most intimidating figure in my life. Like this dude. All right, so to give you an idea of what my dad looks like, he's a 6 foot tall. What is it? Really dark skin, like so dark that like I thought I was half black until I was 12. Dark.
is that in your act?
Yeah, that's in my act. Like the like I like the way I would describe it is like because like I was when I was just giving my stepmom and my dad, I'd be like, and my stepmom's in the crowd. I love her to death. She's quick witted. Was it raised an awesome family? Also, she married a black man in the '90s, and that's fucking brave, guys. Like shit like that. But now that my mom's giving the crowd too, I'm like, but it's not as crazy as my mom, who married a black man in the '80s. All right, and there's part of me that like wants to bring this visceral like was it observations of it of being in that situation.
It's an
Uh,
elephant in the room almost. Like for you, just personally, it's like an
yeah.
elephant in your life in the room. Like you have to almost do that was one that was going to be a question of mine, like how you're going to handle all this, but
Oh
essentially
no,
on stage, especially.
because because like in reality, right? Like, was it? This is terrifying the shit out of me. Like, I am scared out of my fucking mind. But if I can't do this in front of like these people, how the fuck can I expect to do this to anyone else, right? And these are
That's a
people that,
good,
yeah,
I was just going to say it's a good way to look at it. It's a test in some way as a comedian.
yeah. So I'm gonna break out like for me, like it's either a I crumble under the pressure, or I just fucking let it rip. And I'm just gonna let it fucking rip. I'm gonna say everything and anything that's on my mind about that situation. What is it? One of the big ones is saying that I come from a broken home, but then like they raised two equally healthy homes.
Right. I remember.
So
Yeah.
so like what is it? The thing I'd say is like because like the media portrays like being in a broken home, right? And like But my situation's like I'm spoiled. Like I have loving parents. But I didn't tell that to the scene chicks that I was trying to like pick up back in high school. Like they're like, "Oh, your dad left you when you were young? My dad left me when I was young too. You want to talk about it?"
You're
And I would
funny.
like smoke.
Guys will say anything.
Yeah, I would smoke a cigarette before the dates. I smell like their abusive stepfather, like shit like that.
Yeah, you're wild.
Yeah, that's
Who
stupid.
are you? We're gonna find out. I'm
Yeah,
excited to find out more. I'm like, who? You're. There's a lot of nuance to you, Ray
yeah,
Cabato.
yeah. No, it's fun. I the because like even before I was a stand up, like I just the shit that I would get into was it would just be like, all right, this is a really stupid idea, but it's gonna be a funny story. So let's keep going.
Yeah, part of me feels like you were meant to do this show in Vegas with these four people, like for better or worse, and just to go in with the attitude that you're going to let it rip and leave it all out there, so to speak. I think that's the right way to do it. I'm thinking about like, how should he do this? What should he say? Like, how far should he go? Like, what are that kind of like
Oh
questions?
yeah,
But yeah, I think just leaving it out there and just being yourself, being the comedian that you've been working on being for the last however many years. We'll get into it, but like,
yeah. Because like I'll be real, like I'm gonna say I'm gonna let it rip, but then fucking like yesterday I did a show at the old zoo. Shout out to Normal Comedy. Uh, they had like 40 people at that
dude, I saw you post about this show. I was like, I went to a different show, but I want to go. I want to check out that one too. I'm like, that sounds fun.
dude. Shout out to Kelly Riley. She like set up an awesome show because like there's a bunch of shows that like especially like in LA, especially if you're competing with like the improv like what is it the
The
fucking comedy,
clubs.
yeah, the clubs and all that shit. Like you go to a show and there's like three people in the crowd and you're like, all right, it's better than a bunch of comedians. Let's let it rip. But then midway through my act, I noticed that there was like a fucking 5-year-old in the crowd, and I mention it, and then I proceed to do the rest of my bits clean. Hey, like what is it? And it's like some of it because like I have a analogy about like what it's like to be a server. So if you don't know what it's like to be a server, imagine the 4 to 6 hour gangbang and you're the one taking all the dick. I was taking all the dick. Like that's my analogy for like what it's like to be a server. And like I saw the little kid in the crowd. I'm like, she's there. All right, I'm still gonna say it. The 4 to 6 hour gangbang, and you're just taking all of it. So yeah. So that's how that's so if I'm in the room with them, like because like to be heard, I've only been doing this for a year, so I don't know
Oh,
how.
you haven't been to, yeah, I was gonna,
Yeah,
yeah. You've only been to stand up a year.
yeah. So like it's one of those things where like if I see my parents in the crowd, like is it gonna be like the kid in that park? I don't know the fucking kid, but I want to give it. I want to give respect to the parents that are trying to raise this kid right. Although fucking
Dude,
Brandon,
give
yeah,
all these like caveats and preambles and all this and disclaimers. Give a lot of disclaimers. You explain your situation to the crowd, and maybe that will get them on your side. So then,
yeah,
whatever you do from there on out, it's like, what the fuck you expect me to do? I'm trying to be a comedian. I'm trying to entertain you. I'm trying to not have a
yeah,
therapy session.
yeah, exactly. Like because like the probably the one thing that because I do subscribe to the idea that it's like stand-up comedy is very cathartic, right? It's very visceral, but the thing I'll say is that it's therapy for me, but the audience isn't my therapist. You know,
Right? Yeah, no doubt.
that's sort of how I look at it now. Because it used to be like, oh, like I'm going to therapy and you're all my therapist. But then if I look at it like that, then like I'm gonna like pour out some really, really, really deep seated demons that I'm like I have to wrestle with. Um, like
Until
here's
they can
what,
become bits.
yeah. Here's the one thing though that like my dad, my biological dad, and my biological mom, that's totally fine. Like but then the one thing I'm really struggling with is what is it out in Vegas? What is it? My best friend since high school. What is it? He's actually buried out there, and his parents live in Vegas, and they want to come to see the show, and that I am hesitant as all shit because like it's one of those things where like if they're in the crowd, I might bring up like what was it, my friend, like, and he he died 5 years ago, and it was a big like turning point in my life. Like, what was it when he died? He was like an unfiltered confidant, and was it we always talked about like getting into stand up. Like my first the first time I met him, it was in eighth grade, and he was getting into a Nick Swartzen bit. Like he was trying to like play it off as his joke, and I called him out on it. I'm like, oh yeah, no, that's Nick Swartzen. Like I love that bit, and he's like, oh shit, he knows. So like we started.
He was a hack. He was a
Yeah, he was a
seventh grade.
hack. I
What's
was
his
like,
name? What's your friend's name?
it's my buddy Jeff. He I call him out for being a hack, but then like over the years, like he was really good at doing impressions and doing what was it, that type of humor, and I was very good at bringing up unique concepts that like that I the reason why I watch a lot of stand up and I do that is to actually find if people found a same uh found an angle that I found. And this is even as like a before I was a stand up comic. This is like, okay, they said it, I can't say that. That's that's why I like stand up comedy so much. But yeah. So if they show up at the show, like I feel like I would have like a fucking mental breakdown. Like, because it would not only am I unpacking mental trauma from my childhood, but like just like it's still fresh in my head. It's still fresh in my head. The only way that like I attack this on stage is that like when I have a show in Vegas, I would go to people. I'm like, yeah, look, 90% reason why I'm here is because like I want to go visit my buddy. So I go to my buddy's grave, right? And I have a ritual that I do. I'd go there, I would update them on my life, and I would have fun. But the 5 times I've went to Vegas and visited his grave, there was a something awesome happened. Like I would get laid. There was a
There you go.
was it there's a lot of money that I won at gambling. So the thing that I realized is I started treating my friend's grave like a shrine for pussy and good money. Like, and I'll just come to him with like a list of shit I need. I'm like, yo, hey, that chick you got me last time, like if you get me above a 7, dog, that'd be dope. You're doing me a solid. Also, I need this jackpot for fucking rent. Just let me have it, dog. Like that's that's the that's the angle I come at it. It's still not. It still doesn't punch right, but you know.
How many times did this come to fruition? This like pattern or whatever, or times you visited him?
Oh yeah, no, it's been consistent. Although the last time I went to Vegas, I didn't know that the fucking cemetery closes on the weekends. So like the show that I do there is on Saturday, and like that was the time I didn't take off Friday off, so I just went Saturday. So I was driving to the cemetery, and then like the gates were closed, and I was like, "What the fuck is like?" The thing that sucked is that the cemetery isn't close to Vegas. It's like actually closer to like Boulder City. So I have to drive like 40 minutes out of the way to get there. So I was like, oh, this is bullshit. All right, well, yo, I tried, man, and then I'd go check into my hotel.
Yeah, wow, that's quite an incredible story. I'm sorry that you had to deal with like a lot of what you're telling me about. That's not
Yeah.
fun to lose a friend and the stuff with your parents, not getting along. That's not easy, especially for a kid, I imagine. Like,
Oh, yeah, no, but it's one of those things where like you compartmentalize it, right? And you just move forward.
that's right. You're the person who could do the show. You can do it. I'm way more just I barely know you. I've seen you perform one time, but I haven't talked to you much, but other than this, but
yeah.
I don't know. I think this is like the kind of thing that you're meant to do and meant to handle and can do it. And even if it doesn't go perfectly, you'll figure out like
Oh yeah,
something
no,
that
like
you learn
it's
out
20.
of it, and like it'll be an amazing experience. Or I don't know, it'll
Because
go
like, all
well.
right, so
It's gonna
like
go well.
So like I feel like it's gonna be split into two parts, right? Um, 15 minutes is me riffing on my family. Like my step siblings are there. My what is it? Because like the an angle that I would say is that like when I went to Hawaii, I'll be introduced to a bunch of aunts and uncles that I never knew fucking exist. But they're like, "Oh, we've seen you when you're a kid." I'm like, "Who the fuck are you?" And then they're bringing like my step siblings are bringing their like their kids. So I'm up there going like, and I am full aware that I am that uncle to you guys. All right, you have no idea who the fuck I am, and I'm gonna be telling jokes in front of you. This is starting off great. Um, Another thing is like my was it my niece? She's learning to how to play golf for my dad. So I'm like, that's really wholesome. I love seeing like my dad be a father to someone. It's like because he didn't do that shit for me. Shit.
Oh man.
But so like shit like that. And like I'm gonna be riffing that hard into it, right? Um, but yeah, no, like there's that, and then like I feel like the other 10 minutes and the 25 minutes that I'm doing is my actual material, like the that I've like curated and have fun with, and
Yeah.
yeah,
No, I think you're gonna do well. Have you gotten like feedback from other comedians as far as like how to I don't want to say handle, but like, just other people's thoughts on your, because I guess this is a little bit of a unique situation for, for a
yeah.
comedian to be in it, because where it's
Oh,
the personal mixing with the professional. So it's not like we're figuring it out. I feel like we're brainstorming a little bit right now, or like, well, you know what you want to do, but like,
yeah, yeah, exactly. Like, was it at open mics? I would like actually like unpack like me like being scared out of my fucking mind about the situation, right? But was it, and then like I would write a couple jokes, give context of what these jokes entail, and like and just like try to get those 15 minutes up and ready. So like when I perform it in front of like my family, because like all right, so I'm if I'm not lazy, I want to film this and I want like the camera on me telling jokes, and then I have like two other cameras on the table where my mom's sitting and the table where my dad's sitting, and then like in the YouTube video it would be like me telling jokes and then like a live reaction cam of both of them in different corners of the video, and like it was just like jokes in front of my family, and then like what was it one take, like what was it, if it rips it rips, if it doesn't then like you know experiment. It's not like I'm filming like a Netflix special where I could like like do it three times over and then like get the best laughs out of them. I'm like, all right, this is one take, let's go.
yeah, that's exciting though. It sounds like I like the way you're thinking, mixing the personal with the funny and trying to like make it all work. I think this is the show you're meant to do, man. Like just like in your journey has put you like on this like, okay, now you must pass this crazy test as a comedian and in your personal life, and then you will
Yeah,
get to the next level, whatever level in quotes, in
although there's
life and in your profession.
yeah, exactly. It's like one of those things where like there's some jokes that I'm gonna say that like are that I want to say, but I don't know if it's like pushing it, like the the one fucked up joke that I'm thinking of doing is that like of saying what is it is I want to find a love that my dad and my stepmom have, like they're in love and it's so apparent, but I don't want to do the same process that my dad did by trampling a woman that I had two kids with in the process, like, and that's gonna kill the energy in the room. I know that
Yeah,
if I say that
maybe.
if I save that one because but it's like how I truly feel like the because like the two relationships that my parents have are very like my dad has a passionate love, my mom has a companion love with my stepdad. So like was I want to combine the two. So I realized that if I were to choose my ideal marriage situation, I would be truly in love with a woman, and I would have health care, much how my stepdad got a green card. So that's all I care about is that I'm in love with a chick and she gets me good health care. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a tightrope a little bit. I think what will put more too much attention on them? Like what's gonna get it?
yeah.
You don't want the everyone in the. I don't think you want everyone in the audience to be like looking over like at them like in a like pitying or like awkwardness or I don't
Oh yeah,
know.
no, and it's like literally my brother, my son, and like my step siblings and shit. And was it? I'm trying. I'm getting rip into them too. But at that same token, it's one of those things where I'm like, what is it? Because I like being prepared for comedy sets, but there's that like that unknown factor in doing comedy, right? Where it becomes a slot machine of what of what's said, depending on like the situation. And like,
Yeah,
because like I haven't ran into a crazy heckler. Like the closest thing to a heckler I've run into doing comedy is a car alarm going off in the parking lot. And then like the way I'd handle that is I would stop me saying anything, and I would bask into the sirens and be like, "You hear that? I'm fucking killing the parking lot, guys." Like like that's how I approach that. But
yeah. You always have to acknowledge whatever the elephant in the room may be, whether it be some family member, audience member, some kind of or a sound or an interruption of some kind.
yeah, and it's like, was it the seasoned comedians, the ones that like I've been doing it for years on end. They know how to handle those situations.
Yeah.
Um, there's I do photos for this comedy show called the Comedy Rhetoric, and they had an awesome comedian, Ida Rodriguez, that was on there, and she ripped. But the thing that happened was that there was a homeless man that showed up at the park amphitheater that the show was at, and he kept shouting, "I love you, I love," and like it was like like really like obnoxious.
I imagine so.
And like I looked at him, I'm like, I'm gonna play bouncer today. I'm gonna take these photos, but I'm gonna play bouncer and say, get the fuck out of here. But then Ida like looked at them and said to the crowd, "He's a human being, guys." And she starts leveling with the guys, so like, "Hey, if you behave, I'll buy you dinner." And he shut the fuck up and and
Wow.
and joined the show. So like shit like that. Like she made sure that, because like she had an experience about being homeless and like people discounting her. So she told that to everybody, and then brought everyone to realization, going like, "Oh yeah, no, that's a human being," and then like handled the situation so fucking well. Because like me as a comedian, if I hear that, I'm like, God damn, get this fucker out of here, you know. But like seeing someone handle it like that, I'm like, yeah, no, that's a pro right there.
Yeah, and that will make people like me and you think twice about how to handle situations in life. You don't always sometimes notice when there are those moments of opportunity to be an example of a better human being and taking our humanity to the next level in
Al-
quotes.
Although 2 weeks later, like Nyla's Abston was performing, and then this dude with two dogs showed up, started pantomiming his act, and then like what was it? We uh we told him to like move along, and he just goes off on this anti-Jew rant. He's like, "They're trying to kill us all," and he walks around the amphitheater, and like Niles just like stood there going like, "Word, this is this is what's
The
happening."
That's what the guys at the two random guys with the or two homeless. What was it? Who was going on the rant?
I don't even think he was homeless. I think he was just like, he was just crazy. And then, like, the thing that set me off was that he called Niles a slave, and like and that was is like the chillest black dude on the planet. And then like that set me off, and I'm like, "Oh, you need to get the fuck out of here." Like I was trying to like give him equal respect, going like, hey, like, was it? Yeah, like this is a comedy show. I need you to move along. But then like when he called him a slave, I'm like, no, fuck that, get the fuck out of here. And I was like, but the thing that happened was that he he started he started saying like white, black, and he looked at me, Filipino, and I'm like, oh shit, you guessed my ethnicity right.
What the hell?
And like in the back of my head, like this guy's a racist and an asshole, but you know, I'll give him a break because he knew I was Filipino.
I think this sounds like someone who's like is a little ill, had mental issues. It sounds
Oh
like.
yeah, and he was just shouting into the park as he was walking off, going like the Jews are trying to kill us all, and I'm like, geez, man.
Oh man, you never know what you're gonna see what you're gonna see out there. I'm learning a lot. I'm learning that you should double charge as a photographer and a bouncer at this point, my friend. I think you're underselling what you're if it's gonna be the role, just take it on. Just be
Yeah, no, it's one of those things where like, was it?
Yeah, no formal training.
Yeah, in either it's like the because like that's the angle that I have with photography and comedy right now is that like I've built up a portfolio of being like a photographer, right? Um, but like stage time is really fucking valuable to me. I and like especially if it's in front of actual people and getting getting like reactions from like people, right? So the thing that I've been doing is that I've for if there's a comedy show that happens, like I'd be like, hey, if you want pictures of the show, give me the cold open, and I'll take that as payment. Like that, and that's like the angle I've been going, and like it's sort of like I'm working from like not being on the flyer at all, to like people actively putting me on the flyer, and I'm like, yes, cool, I'm happy with this, right? But yeah, like all right, so to backtrack, I'll go into like the photography journey. So the just the
Yeah, sure. I wanted to know more. Yeah, because we were going pretty deep, and it's all good. And I could I always have you back in the future or something like that. But I did want to know about like you as a kid, even a little bit more. Like what were you into? And I'm sure that will lead into comedy and photography. And tell me more about your friend Jeff. Like even if you,
yeah.
I would love to hear more about that. Like where
Okay.
comedy and playing music. Like I know where you're the kid and teenager and the creative stuff and Jeff and all that stuff meet.
Okay. This actually ties into all of it. All right. So, as a kid, I was highly delusional. So I was a pathological liar.
Yeah, I wanted to
Um,
ask about what you meant by delusional.
so like, one of the things with Jeff that we did was that we formed our first band back in high school, and the thing that he did was that he started learning how to play guitar, play bass, and we had my buddy Hill. He started learning to play guitar, and like I'd play drums. Um, I didn't know how to play drums, worth shit. But the thing I told Jeff was that I had a drum set in storage that I didn't have, and I'd play all the time. You know, like I was trying to play up that I was a trained drummer.
Wait, did you have the drums in storage or did you not?
I did not.
You
I
did
was a
not. So
lying.
that was multiple lies right there. It was
Yeah,
two lies at least.
yeah. I was a lying piece of shit. So the thing that happened was during our sophomore year of high school, his mom bought a drum set for his dad, but then like she's like, oh, Ray knows how to play drums too. You guys can start a band. And then they saw me play drums, and I was playing snare rudiments from like fourth grade that I learned when I was like trying to play like snare drum, and I sucked. I sucked so hard, and like the his mom was like, "Oh, I wasted my money." And the summers between sophomore year of high school and junior year of high school, I started learning how to play. I started to like get better, and then over time I developed the skill for drums. Um, so that coincides with like me playing tennis too. Like I would lie about knowing how to play, but then like over time I started learning actual form and doing all that.
What
So
does that say about you?
yeah, so like it's one of those things where like, what is it? Yeah, because like it's like pathological liar me was the most unbearable motherfucker you could ever imagine. And
I'm not a fan of those.
yeah, so like it's one of those things where like I cringe at it hard. So like the because like the things I would say was whether it's like girls I was trying to sleep with, like, was it situations where I want to seem cooler than I was.
Yeah.
Like it makes me like cringe so fucking hard, right?
To think
Um,
about it now, you mean, or in the moment?
all the above,
Yeah.
you
But
know. So
you knew you were good at it, it sounds like. Or were you not good at it? Were you a good liar? You're
I was like, what was it? It for me, I was an amazing liar. Like it surprised me of a lot of the shit that I got away with.
high
I think
success rate, high success rate.
yeah, and like it didn't stop. So the when I started learning how to play tennis, when I started doing drumming, like like it was a skill that I could show off and like I didn't lie about anymore. Like I'm like, yo, I'm a drummer. Like this is what I do now. Like so,
Lying used to be the thing that you do. And then
yeah,
you're just like, I'm gonna try a couple of the things that I was lying about, just to and maybe stick with them, and then you're stuck with them. That is a hilarious story. I'm glad I met you. Hopefully, in the aftermath of the lying in your life.
yeah, no, exactly. Like because like when it came to it, right? I developed these skills and I started running with them, and then uh there was a moment where I like Jeff went to the Air Force, my buddy Hill went to college, and I was a drummer. So the thing that happened was that I was trying to find a band to play with now that my friends moved on with their stuff, right? So I actually went to Craigslist and became a hired gun drummer in college, and I ran into some really fucked up like situations where I'm like, there's a there's like this really cringy kid that he was like a big anime fan, and like I found him on Craigslist, and like he had I was performing with him in Filipino town at this place called Tribal Cafe, and he sucked so bad at singing, and like but he tried to have stage presence, so he tried jumping off my bass drum to like get the crowd on our side, and it broke my drum leg, and I had to like drum sideways. I was like, this fucking asshole. Um, but and then there was like a fucking this hip hop duo. And it was like two black dudes with like just a fuck ton of eyeliner, and it was just like them talking about their parents beating them in their rap
Oh,
songs.
that's not
And I
ideal or fun.
and they're all sad, but then like I'm like this happy go lucky like Filipino dude with like a beanie and playing drums for them. Uh, so I was like, oh, okay, well they're sad, I'm not. But I actually found the band that I played with for like 2-3 years um on Craigslist, and we recorded songs, and it was amazing. Like the way like the band was called Arson and Company. The way I like describing it, and they hate me saying this, is that like it was as if Adele were lead singer to the Strokes. So we had the mid 2000s British indie like Arctic Monkeys, Block Party like instrumental, and then this like if you look at this chick, she looks like she can't sing worth shit, but
She
she
looks like she can't sing.
yeah, but she rips. She rips so fucking hard. Like I heard um I heard like the track that they've released. And I'm like, who the fuck do I need to kill to be in this band? And then what is it? I'm still very really proud of the music that we made, and it's like a check out my mixtape fam like a moment whenever like I talk music and about them. But um yeah, but then when I got kicked out of the band, that sent me into like a pretty deep depression. But beyond that, uh, forward to like 2016 when Jeff dies, like and I'm
I'm
devastated.
sorry to hear that,
Yeah,
man. And that I mean, that must have been that is tragic. To,
yeah. Like the what was it? I lost the unfiltered confidant. I was the last person to hang out with him before he died. What was it? And it was one of those things where like whenever I talk to him, it always like no matter what we did, like he would go to the Air Force and do band stuff or like pursue different endeavors. Like whenever we talked, it was like we it flashback to like when we were in his garage goofing off and like what was it like we never missed a beat when we got together.
Right.
Yeah. So the way I got into photography, and this is like a really roundabout like way to go about it, is that the the Monday after his funeral, I was at rock bottom. Like I was I couldn't see color. Like that's how traumatic the experience was because like you know I lost the future godfather of my children. You know that was like that was my boy. The thing that happened was that I was I went to anime conventions and I'd have friends from anime conventions and I was hanging out with a couple friends that like knew what was going on and like we were at Little Tokyo and one of my friends was like a prolific cosplayer and shit. Um, and then one of the photographers that she usually works with, we ran into him in Little Tokyo, and he's like, "Hey, I have free time in 3 hours. Like, you want to do a quick shoot?" And she's like, "Yeah, sure." And then like she nudges me. She's like, "He's been trying to sleep with me for like the last 6 months, and it's fucking creepy." I was like, "Okay, whatever." So he brings out his camera. He brings out like this god awful huge ass umbrella, and he starts doing pictures at the light tunnel in the Weller Court. And he took pictures of her, my friends, and then I was a chain smoking wreck. Like I just wasn't into it. And then like they're like Ray has the camera, and then like he looks at me. He's like, "Let me take your picture, dog." And I'm like, "I'm good, man." I've had negative experiences with school photos and all that shit. I'm like,
He
I don't
wanted to
want.
take your picture
Yeah, I was like, I didn't want anything about it, you know. And he goes like, "Just trust me, man."
with
You
your
know,
camera,
no, with his camera.
with his camera.
And he he got me in front of the light, his light. He directed me really quick, and I didn't think much of it, right? And we we resume hanging out. We leave him, and that night he gave us back the pictures that he took, and they were great. And like I was just not having it. I was like, I was really zoned out. Like, yeah, let's lost my best friend. Um, but then I saw the pictures that he took of me, and all the pain and anger that I had towards like was it the situation like disappeared for like 2 seconds, and then like the singular thought of, oh shit, I look good,
That's
like
interesting.
rose to the top, right? So
Wild.
I I saw that. I remember how that made me feel, and I'm like, hey, if a picture could do this for me at my worst, I want to do this for other people. And I had little to no knowledge of cameras, and I had a camera myself, so I just went off the deep end and said, "Fuck it, I'm gonna be a photographer." So I started learning how to light things. I started traveling to conventions. So like the main niche of photography that I do is cosplay. So I'm a huge anime fan. I love it. I love video games, and like I started meeting cosplayers, and I'll do free shoots and started building a name for myself. And I ran into like some amazing photographers. My buddy Justin Element, he's a amazing wedding photographer, but he's also a really big nerd. And he was it he gave like his philosophy about like being a photographer, because the thing about him is that he does like 50, 60 weddings a year
That's
at 10.
every weekend.
Yeah, at $10,000 a pop. He owns a house in Anaheim, like, and he bought that with photography money, and like being in his house, seeing all the nerd shit on his wall and all that, I was like, oh shit, it's possible. You could make a living doing photography. But I I was like, okay, this is for me. I'm gonna do it. But as I became bigger friend, like more friends with him, I realized that in order to be that wedding photographer, you have to have a motor. You have to like cull through like thousands of photos. You have to have the professionalism. The one thing that he told me that I carry with me with my photography and even my stand-up comedy is that I didn't get booked because of the massive amount of followers that I had. I get booked because people tell good stories about me. So I'm gonna do this professionally. I'm gonna be punctual. I'm gonna be a consummate professional, and people see that. And if they like you, they'll book you. One story that he told me was during weddings. There's like especially now everyone has their phones and their iPads and shit, and like they get in the way of the photographer, and it gets annoying as shit.
Sure.
But the thing that he did was that he saw a woman that was like playing around with a DSLR and getting in the way of his shot. Instead of like being mad at her, he goes up to the woman and says, "Hey, what is it? You should do these settings. Step back here, you can get a better shot." And he was teaching as he was working. And the client saw that, a bunch of other people saw that, and he booked 3 more weddings based off doing that versus like being spiteful. So if people tell good stories about you, you get more work. So that's how I started approaching photography. That's how I approach comedy now. Like if people tell good stories about you, people want to watch you around.
Who was the comic who had the conversation with the homeless man earlier?
Ada Rodriguez.
Yeah, that's like the same kind of thing. Like, why are you telling me things that are gonna like make me think twice about my own existence and try to challenge? I don't want to be challenged to become a better person. That's the last thing that I want, my friend.
That's the last thing. I am a piece of shit. I'm gonna double down on being a piece of shit.
No, I just want to say I'm fine where I am. Don't make me dig deeper and challenge myself to become a better person to the world. We don't want that. Cool. What about what about comedy? How did we try to get into the comedy stuff?
Okay, so I tell the story a lot, but the first time I ever did stand-up comedy was at an anime convention, January 2020. It was a convention called Anime Los Angeles, and they had a comedy tournament where what was it? In the prelims, you get 2 minutes, and then they pick the top 6 to go to the finals. All right.
A comedy tournament, you said.
Yeah. So and like you just break out all your best anime jokes. And one joke that was fucking hilarious was like how one dude was saying that Dragon Ball Z was bullshit. It's a bunch of Asians yelling to turn white to solve their problems. And I was like, okay, that's a solid bit. But what was it? Like you could break out all your niche material, and I didn't have any material. Like legitimately, the thing I said in my 2 minutes was like, I'm like, everyone loves me for my photography. They love my lighting. They love my composition. They love my art. And I'm like, fuck the art. I'm just trying to get an Asian bitch to suck my dick. That's all that's the only reason why I got into cosplay photography. Like that's the only thing I fucking said. And I was expecting like 6 other people that'd be funnier than me. But guess who got picked for the finals? Fucking me.
Wow.
So
was that surprising to you? Or even did you see everyone else perform?
I went first.
Oh, okay.
And there's 36 people that tried out, and I was drunk off my ass, like getting there. And as I was watching these people do their 2 minutes, I was getting more sober. There was no punchlines. There was no nothing. There's like 4 really established, really good comedians in that scene, and they run panels about doing comedy and whatnot. So it sort of becomes like a circle jerk for them to be in that competition. But then like what was it? And like I'll be real, I think my buddy Tyler was on the panel, and I think he had a what was it? It was like I always say what's up to him at cons and shit. So I'm pretty sure he had a say in if I went to the finals or not. And that's just my suspicions. But the thing about the finals was that you got 15 minutes in front of 400 weebs.
And this is mostly amateur people who have little or no experience, like just saying, "Oh, I'm going to come up with some jokes, some niche jokes," as you say about cosplay.
Yeah, about cosplay, anime, video games, whatnot. and like
Interesting.
and I had no material, and they gave me 15 minutes. So I had like probably 2 or 3 jokes that landed, but I ate the biggest plate of dicks in
That's a
that
lot.
15 minutes.
That fit.
Yeah,
That's way too long for someone with no that. That's like the event people like not knowing that that's too long a time to be up there.
exactly. So it's like one of those things. I'm like, oh my god, this is fucking terrible. But the thing that because like in that bombing, I did not know what to do. I was tearing up on stage. Like I was like, and like I was like,
Damn.
like it wasn't like I was crying. It was more like the lights were like bright on me, and like
Yeah.
nothing that I was saying was landing, and like that feeling sucked. So and so like I could have either like said, all right, stand up isn't for me, but then after that, like my cousin told me about the Comedy Bureau and like all the open mics on there. So I was like, I want to get better so I don't feel like that ever again. So I just started grinding out mics. Like I would go to the comedy office, Bert's back room, the Hollywood comedy when they opened up, and that would be my circuit. And then like when the like when 2021 came along, that's when I started going to flashback and whatnot. But yeah, uh, I would just grind out open mics and just like try to find the material that I want to say.
Did you ever have a thought to doing comedy before you sort of found yourself with the opportunity to do it at in that at the was it comic it was a Comic Con, where was it?
Oh, it was an anime convention called Anime Los Angeles, which is like the joke that landed that I said was like because Anime Los Angeles is takes place in Ontario, California, which is nowhere near Los Angeles. So like I go like, ain't that ain't that ain't that something? We're at Anime Los Angeles and this place is in Ontario. Was it's like saying Anime Las Vegas, but the convention's in Reno. Like that,
Right.
yeah.
There
That was the one joke that landed
you go.
in that set. But then what was it? Like yeah, no, like I've always wanted to do it, but then like I felt like I didn't have as much life experience to like pull from. And then like when I think it was Dave Chappelle's was it Mark Twain Award speech, like he started saying that everyone has a champion about their experiences. And like that resonated with me. And I was like, yeah, no one's gonna be like no one's gonna tell these stories except me because like I live them. So I'm gonna I'm gonna let it rip and see what comes with comedy.
Yeah.
So
People are individuals, like, and I mean in some regard, I mean everyone could be, I guess not, I mean some people just don't have maybe the sense of humor or are born with it or something like that. But
yeah,
most people, if you worked at it, you can probably become somewhat competent, and you and you know, humor is definitely innate too, if, whether we
yeah,
have different amounts of it or not.
exactly. Like the like because like I like I was at an event like after the comedy show I went to this event that happened in at the Anaheim Garden Walk. Like my buddy Kim was like holding like this like anime nerd event, and like all the people that I would run into at conventions showed up there, and I was saying what's up and all that, and everyone's like, "You're doing stand up, like that's so brave, like blah blah blah. I could never do that." And my my whole thing about it is like if you have like pent up anger, pent up like frustration about things in life and all that, like I encourage anybody and everybody to like to try it out and like if they have fun with it, it becomes like another way of expression.
Oh
Like,
no. Oh
and it's
no.
and then this wave of people show up and I'm like, ah, fuck, I have to wait that much longer at open mics.
That's, yeah, create a problem for yourself.
But
Cool. Yeah.
yeah,
I was gonna say, no, that it sounds like since then you've probably just been grinding at stand-up comedy. See, I didn't even know it's been only a short while that you've been at it, only a year. I thought longer.
yeah, like that's the thing. Like I was it same thing happened with me for with photography because like I sucked like when it like I don't like sucking at things. Like, and it's one of those things where like when it comes to stand up, like I want to I want to carry myself like I've been doing it for years, but like I've only been doing it for like a short amount of time. Like, but it's not to discount anybody that's been doing it for years, right? It's like it's more of just like my approach to doing it. But yeah, no, like I'd rather have people go, "Oh, you've been only doing it for a year. That's crazy. I thought you've been doing it for longer." I want that reaction versus, "Oh, you've been doing it for a year." That makes sense.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, for sure, for sure.
It shows, and I'm like, "Oh, fuck."
Yeah, I just have another question or two, and then I'll kind of let you get on with the rest of your day. But
Gotcha.
are you able to balance? How do you balance photography, comedy, the drums? It seems like you're able to integrate the comedy and photography, and one feeding the other a little bit, but with the shows. But are you able to balance everything?
Yeah, because like the thing about being a comic in LA is that like um every like there's a lot of comedians that are using this to be actors, right? They're trying to find their way into the Hollywood limelight. And as a photographer, that's an awesome client base to be a part of. Like because
That's
it's
true. Yeah,
yeah, so it's one of those
headshots,
yeah,
everything.
exactly. So it's one of those things for me, like especially with the pandemic, right? The like people change shape, like they don't look like their headshots anymore, and like I try to integrate like yeah I do headshots into my routine to like advertise like yeah I'm a photographer, hire me. So like it like sure because like I used to have this like really big mentality of like all right I'm gonna pursue one thing and one thing only, and that tore me apart. But if I could sharpen both photography and comedy at the same time, like it's really fulfilling for me because like it doesn't feel like I wasted my time with either.
Right. No, you don't have to do one thing. Who says you have to do one thing?
Exactly right.
Trust me, I know all about that. But what about the drums? You said you're still playing with some people with that band, right?
Oh yeah. What was it? Uh, that band ended like around
Oh,
2014. Was it as far as music goes? Like I still enjoy music. I love listening to music. I enjoy people playing music. And for me, like I would still go on my drum set and like rip and like play and just get like that release, you know, just like to express myself behind a drum set.
tell me more, or tell me what else maybe you're working on, or what's the latest with what's going on these days, and where people can find and follow you, and I'll
Yeah,
give you the floor to do those things and kind of
yeah,
catch us up to date.
cool. Like all right. At the recording of this podcast, I am going to be doing Vegas in June 5th at the Pizza Melody. I am headlining that show, and it's mainly my family. I don't know when this is get released. I don't know, but like that's happening. There, I have a podcast that I want to dust off called Creative to Creative. Um, I recorded it mid pandemic, and like it was mainly just for me to reconnect with my convention friends, like cosplayers, other photographers, and whatnot, and like just like talk about like their life. Um, my buddy Brian, he runs a clothing brand called Four Eyes Clothing, and a status update like pre pandemic says, "Looks like I got a new heart." I'm like, "Bitch, what?" So like he got heart transplant,
Damn.
and I chat with him about like that whole process, and that was cool. But then it's like all nerd shit. I have a there was a podcast of me and a bunch of cosplayers dressed up like they were dressed up as like Final Fantasy 7 characters, and we would talk about the Final Fantasy remake lore and shit. Like
All nerd shit. That's a good name for a podcast.
exactly. So all nerd shit. What is it? But I digress. But yeah, like that's what's lined up. I have a bunch of like I'm just trying to get on more shows and more flyers and shit. Like just
You're doing it. I see you hustling out there. Got the camera, got the microphone. That's like you can make a little logo out of that. That's you. The tennis
exactly.
racket, the drums, like you got all of it. I have a bunch of little emojis in some of my social media. You could do all that too.
Yeah, man.
No, it's good to have your feet in different waters for sure. You once you get passionate about something, you dive in, which is great. Don't overextend yourself.
Yeah, and was it real shit? Like, was it? I was gonna be like, yo, like, what is it? It's like I felt like I was just droning on about like stories and shit that I was like like that I've been doing. I'm like, yo, Adam, like, how you been, man? Like, how you feeling? You know?
No, it's all about you. No, this is what I want to hear all about your life and stuff. But tell people where they can find and follow you.
Got it. What is it? You could follow me on Instagram, at Remcreate, REMCREATE. On Twitter, Remcreate Photo. I have my YouTube channel, Remcreate. I'm starting to post stand-up bits up there from like, what is it? Sets that went well, like shit like that. But
Sure. Clips.
clips. I'm gonna start. I'm planning to start up the podcast again. Like, I'd love to have you on as a guest, so I can.
Oh,
like,
thank you.
yeah, so we could, like, what is it? It's like trade for trade, like, podcast, and I could like start asking you about your process and how you got into stand up and all that. You know.
I'm not a stand-up comedian. For one thing, you'll learn a lot, but that's cool.
How do we meet, Doug?
I saw you perform. I was an audience member.
Oh, hell yeah, fuck yeah, dude! Thank you for having me on, man. Real shit. Like, this was like fun. Like,
I appreciate that. People sometimes surprised, like, oh, that's fun. That's like the reaction that I'm going for. It's like, oh, that was more fun than I thought it'd be. People can or like and or both like talking about themselves. It's easy, like, and
yeah.
Try not to talk over you too much.
No, it's like, and like I'm a chatterbox, man. Like, I'll like if I'm at a comedy show, I'll tell stories and shit, and like some of
you're good at it.
Yeah. So some of the things that I say is like comedy bits that I'm trying to work through.
I could tell you want to get your comedy in there, which is funny because it's part of me is like I can tell, or sometimes I'm not sure, but I also see that being done by a lot of comedians and on different shows and interview things. I'm like, oh, this is like being treated as like sort of like, no, I like that. It's like, so you can hear people go on like Howard Stern or like different talk shows, and like you can tell when on the late night shows when they're sitting in the chair, like when they're like. They're doing a bit. You're doing a bit a little, which is fine. It's just funny to me.
Yeah, that's what I was like. Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I'm a sounding board in a sense.
Exactly. I was like, oh man, I catch myself doing it. I'm like, I don't want to keep doing this. I just want to have a regular conversation with people.
Yeah, that's the other thing about a comedian. You're like kind of always a comedian or looking for something that can help you as a comedian at all times. And it reminded me even like, I forget, you were saying you were repeating when you and your friend were repeating lines at in elementary school or whatever, Nick Swartzen or something. Like I used to do that shit all the time. I would just quote stuff all day long, movies, and like all I did was go around quoting Seinfeld from like seventh grade to like freshman year of college, just acting like Kramer, acting like Seinfeld, acting like all the characters on the show, like.
And that's the thing. Like when I was a kid, like I didn't enjoy Seinfeld as much, but then now as a comedian, I'm like, oh wow, he's actually like pouring his observations into a sitcom format.
Yeah, show about nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Sweet, man. Well, thanks again.
Got it. Yeah, I appreciate it, man.
Thank you. Talk soon.
All right, most up. Take it easy, man.
You got it. Later.
Take it easy.
So there you have it. My conversation with Ray Cabato. That was fun. Comedy is my therapy, but the audience is not my therapist. I can get down with that. For real, though, I again thank Ray for his time. But anyway, for now, for everything about this show, of course, head to peoplewelovepodcast.com. That's at peoplewelovepodcast on Instagram, and I am at Adam Choit on Instagram and Twitter. And I think that's about all I got for today. I appreciate you guys listening. Thanks as always, and let's talk soon. Peace.